Swalwell didn't walk into that hearing to play defense or exchange polite dialogue. He came in ready to detonate the one question Kash Patel had spent the entire year dodging, and he didn't waste a single second easing into it. The moment he got the mic, he went straight for the pressure point like a man who knew exactly where the cracks were. No warm-up, no build-up, just a clean, surgical strike meant to expose whatever Patel was trying so hard to keep buried. "Director," he said with that calm, focused tone that only sounds calm because the storm underneath is calculated.
Gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for unanimous consent.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to submit two sets of documents. The first is a series of emails from the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. They are making FOIA requests to get their own FBI files and not having any success. So I want to bring attention to that by submitting that to the record. The second document that I want to submit to the record, for the record, I know we don't usually read these. This one's not readable. It's completely redacted for the most part, the first 50 pages. This is actually the search warrant that was served on James O'Keefe for a diary that he had already given to the government 2 months before. And as it turns out, there were no indictments here, yet he still doesn't know why he was raided, and I think he deserves to know. So,
Without objection.
Thank you.
The chair now recognizes the gentleman from California.
Director, the first time you saw Donald Trump's name was in the Epstein files. Did you close the files or keep reading?
I have reviewed not the entirety of the files, so I have.
You haven't reviewed all of the Epstein files?
Personally, no.
You're the director of the FBI. This is the largest sex trafficking case the FBI has ever been a part of. Buck stops at the top, and your testimony today is you have not reviewed all of the files.
What I've been doing is been busy providing the safest country this country has seen in modern U.S. history in historic speed, because the men and women of the FBI are given the resources to reduce the homicide rate, to reduce the drug trafficking rate, to reduce the amount of children that are being trafficked, and the number of pedophiles.
It sounds like those children being trafficked would appreciate the director reviewing the files. You said you don't know the number of times Trump's name appears in the files, so it could at least be 1,000 times. Is that right?
The number is a total misleading factor. We have not released
number at least
anyone's
be 1,000
name
times?
that we have not released anyone's
Could it
name in
at
the
least
Epstein
be 1,000
files that
times?
has not been credible.
Director,
And
could it at
we have
least be 1,000
released
times?
every piece of legally permissible information.
Okay,
you can
so-
characterize the numbers however you want it.
Claiming my time, Director. It sounds like if you don't know the number, it could at least be 1,000 times. Which
It's not.
leads me-
It's not.
Is it at least 500 times?
No.
Is it at least 100 times?
No.
Then what's the number?
I don't know the number, but it's not that.
Do you think it might be your job to know the number?
My job is to provide for the safety and security of this country. My job is not to engage in political
And that
innuendo
includes protecting
so you can go
sexual
out to the
assault
sticks
victims.
and get your 20-second hit in your fundraising
reclaiming my
article.
time,
But
Director.
keep going, reclaiming your time, because the
Director,
people of California
If
are
Trump-
being
if the
underserved by
president-
your
If the
representation.
president is not implicated, why not release everything that involves him?
We have released everything, the president and anyone else's side, that is credible and lawfully be able to be released. Your fixation on this matter and baseless accusations that I'm hiding
also
child
Mr. Massey's
pedophiles is disgusting.
interest.
Anyone that says that needs to look at the stats alone. And go back to the state of California, who's receiving the biggest surge in
So,
FBI resources through
Director-
my redeployment, because the cities of Los Angeles, San Diego, and San
Reclaiming
Francisco
my time,
need it.
Director. Remembering your oath to tell the truth, did you ever tell Donald Trump his name is in the files?
I have never spoken to President Trump about the Epstein files.
Did you ever tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files?
The Attorney General and I have had numerous discussions about the entirety of the Epstein files and the reviews conducted by our team.
Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files?
And we have released where President Trump's name is in the
It's a simple
attorney's
question.
file.
Did you tell the Attorney General that the President's name is in the Epstein files?
During many conversations that the Attorney General and I have had on the matter of Epstein, we have reviewed
The question is
painstakingly
simple.
who
Did you
can
tell
be-
the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files? Yes or no?
Why don't you try spelling it out if
Yes
you're
or
going to mock
no,
me?
Director?
Use the alphabet.
Yes or no?
No? A, B, C,
Director,
D, E, F?
it
Don't
sounds
wanna
like
do
you don't want to tell us. Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name was in the Epstein files?
Why don't you try serving your
Director,
constituency
did
by
you tell the
focusing on
Attorney
reducing
General
violent
that Donald
crime in this
Trump's name-
country and the number of pedophiles that are
Director,
legally
reclaiming my
harbored
time,
in your
Director.
sanctuary cities in
Director,
California?
reclaiming
I'll
my
work with
time.
you on that. Do
Regular
you want
order,
to
Mr.
work with us
Chairman.
on that?
Director,
Time
reclaiming my
belongs to the
time.
gentleman from California.
Did you tell the Attorney General that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files? Yes or
Question
no?
has been asked and answered.
You've not answered it, and we will take your evasiveness as a consciousness of guilt. Director, did Donald Trump ever say to you, just find and release the entire truth? Don't worry if I'm in it?
The instructions from the administration were to release all credible information, and we have done that.
Did Donald Trump ever provide information about Jeffrey Epstein as an informant?
Donald Trump has not been, and I can only speak for the FBI, an informant of the FBI.
So, Director, you've played this cute shell game where you say you can't release everything because the court has said that it legally is not allowed to be released, but the court calls bullshit. Judge Richard Berman said that when you went to the court, quote, information contained in the Epstein grand jury transcripts pales in comparison to Epstein investigation information and materials in the hands of the Department of Justice. So let's move on, Director. You wrote a book called Government Gangsters. You identified 20 individuals in that book. You put me on that list, at the top of the list. Thank you. My children find it flattering. 20 of those individuals have been investigated or have had adverse actions. Director, considering that you have identified these people as, quote, government gangsters, will you recuse yourself from making any investigation decisions about these individuals?
Anyone that has been terminated at the FBI has been done so
No, the
because
question
they failed
again.
to meet the muster in
Director,
their constitutional
I will
obligation.
work on the audio-visual capabilities.
I'm
of
going to
the room, so
borrow
that you
your
can hear me.
terminology and call
I'm reclaiming
bullshit
my
on your
time.
entire career in
I'm
Congress.
reclaiming my
It
time,
has been
Director.
a disgrace to the American
Director, I'm
people.
reclaiming my
You
time.
can
Will
reclaim your
you
time all you
recuse
want.
yourself?
Mr. Chairman,
Try
you're
and
going to
protect
allow a
the
witness to
citizens of
speak this
California.
way? Mr. Chairman, would you
You'll
give...
recuse yourself, Director.
The gentleman has no time to...
Mr. Chairman, would you
Mr.
admonish the
Chairman, point of-
witness not to insult members?
The gentleman has no time.
Mr. Chairman,
the
just
committee will remember.
quick point of order. Could the gentleman be extended an additional 20 seconds to complete his thoughts since the witness decided to interrupt him
And
continuously?
then the witness will be able to respond if he wants. We'll make sure
Thank
he has
you.
time to do that.
My question
Gentlemen,
is,
continue.
will you, Director, recuse yourself, yes or no, from investigating or making decisions about the 60 individuals, including myself, that you identified as government gangsters? Yes or no?
Time of the gentleman has expired. The witness may respond if he would like.
And the answer was no, as I heard.
Correct.
Okay.
The first time you saw Donald Trump's name in the Epstein files, did you close the files or keep reading? That one sentence flipped the entire room on its axis. You could feel the shift. Even before Patel opened his mouth, before he stumbled into his first evasive phrase, you could see the discomfort settle in his posture. His expression tightened. His breathing changed. His voice, usually smooth and confident, came out a notch slower, a degree more cautious, like he was suddenly aware that every syllable might carry weight he couldn't control. And that was the moment everyone watching realized something was different. This wasn't a routine hearing. This wasn't political theater. This wasn't two sides arguing for cable news clips. It was something else, something sharper, deeper, more revealing. It was a moment where someone finally forced open the door that powerful people on both sides have spent years keeping sealed shut. Patel's answer came in fragments, wrapped in vague phrasing and soft padding. He said he had not reviewed the entirety of the files. Not the entirety. Not even most of them. That statement hung in the air like an unanswered alarm. How does the director of the FBI, the man responsible for the largest trafficking case the Bureau has ever handled, admit that he hasn't read all the files? Not because he's too busy, but because he chose not to. It wasn't incompetence. It was avoidance. And Swalwell could smell it. So he leaned in. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't grandstand. He did something far more dangerous. He asked for specifics. Numbers. Details. Receipts. You said you don't know how many times that name shows up, Swalwell pressed. So it could be 1,000, right? Patel shut that down instantly. So Swalwell lowered the bar. 500? 100? Still no. And then came the line that exposed everything. Patel admitted he didn't know the number, but also insisted it wasn't high. Think about that. Imagine telling someone you don't know the answer, but you know it's not that many. Those two statements can't both be true. You can't say you don't know the number and also pretend to know the size. But that's what people do when the real answer is the one they can't say out loud. They reach for a safe middle ground, a place vague enough to be defensible but soft enough to avoid real danger. Swalwell saw the opening widening. He could feel Patel slipping. So he pushed again, sharper this time, cutting through Patel's vague phrasing with direct, to-the-point questions that demanded a yes or a no. There was no space to hide, no room to sprint into the tall grass. But Patel tried anyway. He talked about safety and security. He talked about resources. He talked about crime rates and drug interdiction. He talked about everything except the actual question. It was a blur of distraction, a verbal smoke screen meant to pull the conversation away from the danger zone. Because when someone tries that hard to redirect you, you're not hearing an answer. You're hearing a panic button. And Swalwell heard it loud and clear. "Director," he said, reclaiming his time before Patel could disappear into another fog bank of unrelated talking points. "If you don't know the number, how can you insist it isn't high?" Patel didn't answer. Not really. Not directly. And that silence, those missing words, told the story more clearly than any admission would have. Then the exchange turned even more volatile. Instead of addressing the question, Patel switched to attack mode, accusing Swalwell of chasing fundraising clips, implying he was only asking tough questions to score points outside Washington. That's what people do when they know the truth is the part that hurts. They don't defend themselves. They go after the person asking the question. They make it personal. They make it ugly. They turn transparency into a political insult to scare the conversation off the cliff. But Swalwell didn't budge. He pulled the questioning right back to the center. "Did you tell the Attorney General that the former president's name appears in the Epstein files?" The moment that question hit the table, Patel's evasions went into overdrive. He started talking about general conversations, about review processes, about numerous discussions that somehow didn't answer anything. The words were moving, but nothing was being said. Swalwell finally cut him off. Yes or no? That's when the dance became undeniable. Patel didn't want to say yes. He didn't want to say no. He didn't want to commit to anything that could expose someone else or himself. So he kept circling, kept dodging, kept avoiding the alphabet-level simplicity Swalwell demanded. And when Patel finally said no, the word didn't have the weight of truth. It had the weight of choosing the least dangerous option. Swalwell wasn't done. He shifted from the files to Patel's personal credibility. He pulled out Patel's own book, where Patel listed officials, including Swalwell, as government gangsters. Swalwell asked the question that anyone with common sense would have wondered the moment that book was mentioned. How can a man investigate people he publicly labeled corrupt? How can an official claim neutrality when he already decided who's guilty before he even sees the evidence? It wasn't just a political jab. It was a legal and ethical grenade. Would Patel recuse himself from investigations involving those individuals? The answer was blunt. No hesitation. No reflection. No concern for bias. A clear statement that he saw no issue being investigator, judge, and critic at the same time. That answer didn't hurt Swalwell. It hurt the credibility of the entire institution Patel represents. Because justice cannot look like revenge, and impartiality cannot coexist with personal vendettas. But the deeper truth of this exchange didn't live in the insults or the tension or even the disagreements. It lived in the silence. It lived in the missing answers. The parts Patel refused to say out loud. Because every time he deflected, every time he dodged, every time he pivoted away from the simplest possible yes or no question, it signaled something far more telling than a direct admission ever could. This wasn't a man with uncertainty. This was a man with limits. Lines he could not cross, topics he could not touch, truths he could not say. And the Epstein case has always lived in that space. In shadows, in sealed files, in redactions so thick they look like black walls, in victims denied access to their own interviews, in timelines that mysteriously shift, in names withheld for legal reasons that never seem fully explained. Judge Richard Berman already warned the world. The government holds far more Epstein information than the public realizes. The files released are not the full story, not even close. That alone raises questions. But Patel's testimony multiplied them. If the director of the FBI hasn't read the full files, who has? If he can't give a number, what does that say about oversight? If he won't admit what he told the Attorney General, what else has been kept off the record? The hearing didn't answer those questions. It exposed them. And that is why it mattered. Because the Epstein network wasn't just one criminal. It was a constellation of people wealthy, powerful, connected, who operated in the dark for years. And even after Epstein's death, the darkness hasn't cleared. Files remain sealed. Names remain hidden. Documents remain redacted. Victims remain unheard. And every time a government official dodges a question about that case, it reinforces a belief that something bigger is being protected. Maybe reputations, maybe institutions, maybe legacies, maybe alliances, maybe political futures, maybe all of the above. But dodging this aggressively doesn't happen by mistake. It happens because the truth sitting underneath is heavier than the one being offered. Swalwell understood that. And in that moment, he wasn't speaking for a party. He wasn't speaking for headlines. He was speaking for millions of people who have watched this case twist through secrecy for over a decade. He was speaking for every person who has wondered why the truth always seems to stop right before it reaches the powerful. He was speaking for every victim still fighting to know what the government knows about the men who hurt them. That's why the exchange felt so raw, so electric, so revealing, because it wasn't a clash of personalities. It was a clash between transparency and protection, between accountability and evasiveness, between truth and the machinery built to bury it. And that's the heart of the problem. When someone in power refuses to answer a simple question, it doesn't inspire confidence. It triggers suspicion. Because in politics, the lies are rarely spoken. They're implied in the silences. They're buried in the phrases that say nothing. They're hidden in the details left out. They're protected by the people who refuse to admit they exist. And that is exactly what you saw in this hearing. That if you want more breakdowns of the hidden battles happening behind these hearings, the power plays officials try to disguise, and the moments where truth almost slips through their fingers, make sure you subscribe, hit like, and stay tuned. There are a lot more stories they don't want told, and this channel isn't letting them stay buried.